What's good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. And break down what's going on with the overall market, what the news is saying about Tesla, and what's going on with Jerome Powell, as the guy's going to be giving another speech for tomorrow. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I get into any more details about what's going on with the markets, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. The offer ends in just 7 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. Looking at Tesla, we had another sideways day. Tesla's stuck between supply and demand. As Tesla hits this 215 zone, we tend to see some buyers stepping in, and for today, it happened to be around this 217 area. And then for resistance, we tend to see Tesla getting rejected between 225 and 223. This is where we've seen Tesla get rejected for the past 2 days. So the question is, can Tesla try to break out for tomorrow to a higher level, or is there going to be a risk to the downside looking at the current market? We first have to look at some data affecting the markets to discuss how Tesla is going to look. So in the morning tomorrow, an hour before the market opens, we have initial jobless claims coming out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then after that, we have some Fed speakers, some more auction data, which is going to be very minor around 11:30 to 12 p.m. And then finally, at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Jerome Powell giving a speech. He's going to be talking at a very important conference. So at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, this is going to be going on at the policy panel discussion. And at this research conference in Washington, D.C., Powell is going to be talking about the economy, the current inflation rates, and monetary policy. So what he says could shake the markets at 2 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Make sure you're ready for this. Make sure you're prepared. This time he's going to for sure be saying something that should move the market. So just be very, very careful. Now, besides that, we have some earnings coming out. Disney did relatively well, beating on EPS and revenue, and also their Disney Plus subscribers ended up beating expectations, which is not bad whatsoever. So far, earnings have been okay for the markets, and they're working on cutting costs as time goes on. AMC stock also beat on earnings, except their guidance is something that's still going to be discussed. We're still waiting for what's going to happen with their earnings call. And for earnings going into the future, we have like Li Auto and just a couple of small ones, such as like Fiverr and Unity, and nothing else that's too big for the rest of the week. Now, when it comes to the Fear and Greed Index, I just wanted to call out that the market volatility is kind of neutral. We're continuing to see the put and call options becoming a bit more greedy as more call buying is trying to make up the ratio, and we're starting to see buyers stepping in. On top of all of this, the market's overall sentiment is becoming less fearful and more neutral than before. So we're going to be watching to see how this holds. As far as Tesla goes, I just wanted to call out something else that's very important. Tesla's Cybertruck specs are basically coming out, at least for the Dimension, and I don't know if this is confirmed, but it's looking very interesting for how it's looking. The Cybertruck specs are maybe a little bit different from what people initially thought, with the length being 18.6 feet, the width around 79.9 inches with no mirrors, at least that is. The height's around 70.5 inches, and the wheelbase is around 143 inches basically, so nothing too crazy. And so far, I think that with a towing rating of 11,000 pounds, that's pretty crazy, and we will see how this continues. Looking at the frunk volume, it's at 7.1 cubic feet, and there's just more specs coming out, so pretty cool stuff. I mean, it's not like that much larger than some pickups out there, and I think that with the different features coming out, this is still going to be very popular as we approach the big launch events very soon. Now, when it comes to other pieces of news affecting Tesla, workers in Sweden will expand the strike against Tesla as we're starting to see them continuing to blockade different sites for these areas, for the different ports. And with this going on, we're going to be watching to see how negotiations go. Tesla is once again being pressured to sign some kind of bargaining agreement, and we'll see what happens with this. We're just waiting for this, but this news so far has not been the best of news for Tesla, and this has caused it to chop a bit. It's not really pumping as hard as it could have. And then looking at other pieces of data, Morgan Stanley is giving Tesla an overweight rating. When it comes to the price comparison, it's performing very similar to the market as the price-peers ratio is flat. Thursdays tend to be green about 48% of the time, so not the strongest of days. And finally, look for volatility during the second hour of the day and also during the 2 p.m. period, at least for Eastern Standard Time. November tends to be a strong month, even if we start off not in the strongest of notes. I believe the last 2 weeks or so of November should be better for Tesla because of the Cybertruck event, or at least the final week moving forward. 106 million was the volume, nothing too crazy, so we'll be watching to see how this affects Tesla. But what do I see happening to the Tesla stock in the markets? What do I think is going to play out? Here's my answer, guys. Honestly, guys, I'm not leaning super bullish. I do believe it is possible that things could change for Tesla, but just to be clear, we're developing bearish divergences on SPY right now. This is going to affect Tesla in the market. Apple has a bearish divergence, so does Nvda. And I believe that the market's in the topping process. I think that either the top is in or the market could pump a little bit more, depending on what Jerome Powell says. There could be a little bit more upside, but I think the market's going to form a top. And I think that the market's going to start selling off a bit. And I believe that this may cause Tesla to cool off a bit as well. That's my view of Tesla. So part of why I'm saying this is because we have a bearish cross in the PPO as of right now. The trend is kind of neutral, a little bit more in favor of bears, especially since we had like these 2 red days. And then on top of this, when you look at the daily on Tesla, it's still strong, but the momentum is not extremely strong. It's a little strong, but it's not extremely strong. And it's trying to kind of consolidate in this area. Now, when you look at other technicals, Tesla has this gap down here around this 205 area, and Tesla's just going back and forth and back and forth. If we're really bullish, you want to see it break above this 224 to 225 area, and we can see this thing start pushing for 228 to 230 if we manage to close above this or hold 225. If we're really bearish, you want to see Tesla lose 214. If we lose that, I expect it to start sinking much lower. Right now, it's just kind of consolidating, going back and forth and back and forth, and I think that the odds favor this for tomorrow, especially as time goes on. But for the later days of the week, I think that if the market pumps a little bit more, we could see Tesla try to test 225 and then just continue to consolidate, trading sideways between this range. But I believe that there is a risk of downside for Tesla later on, going into the later days of this week, if not by next week, because the market might sell off a bit. And this could lead to Tesla eventually testing these lower levels. All right. So I think there's a risk of that potentially happening, looking at the current technicals. And you can't forget that on the daily chart of Tesla, we happen to have this like inverse head and shoulders like structure that could still play out. And I would love to see Tesla kind of like sink down before the Cybertruck event and then just like bounce near the end of November. I would love to see that. And I think that there's a possibility of that. So what I would say is there's a possibility Tesla pumps a little bit more with the market if we do get one more pump thanks to Powell. We're going to be watching this 225 resistance. If we fail to break it, watch it just continue to trade sideways within its range. And then it might just continue to trade sideways, kind of like pop and then trade sideways. But later on down the line, if we do see the market start sinking soon, whether it takes a few days or another week from now, this could lead to Tesla retesting 214. And if we break that, we could see some bearish momentum. So there's a risk of some downside for the future. For tomorrow, however, we might just continue to trade sideways on Tesla, kind of pop a bit, then just continue in our range. So watch the range based off the levels we saw previously between 215 and 225. All right, so that's my view of Tesla. What about for SPY? Like I was saying, guys, SPY is losing a little bit of momentum. On the 4-hour time frame, we have a double bearish divergence that's developing with a bearish cross in the PPO. We also have a possible head and shoulders developing from today. It is a possibility, not a guarantee on SPY, and we have a bearish divergence as well. This is actually a triple bearish divergence on SPY, suggesting that there's going to be some downside very soon. So what do I think SPY is going to do? Here's my view, guys. I think that this is going to affect Tesla. That's why I talk a lot about SPY in the broader market, because the market has a tendency of moving on a very similar algorithm. Like if you look at this right here, you could see how similar Tesla has been moving to SPY. If you look at this chart right here, and that's why I do talk so much about these other tickers. So on SPY, we have a possible head and shoulders like structure, and I believe that my claim of the market topping is not incorrect. I think that either 438, which is where we have historical resistance, that's going to be the top, and then SPY is going to reject from here, or it could pump a little bit higher, could push for like the very low 440s if Powell gives us one last pump. We're going to maintain our bearish divergence, and then I think that SPY is going to reject off 440 and then start coming down. It's got to be one of those two, and it's going to start declining towards 435. If we lose 435, watch 433 to be the next level. If we break and hold below that level specifically, I think we either pop to 438, then reject, and the high is in the 438s, and SPY starts downtrending towards 430, or we could pop a little higher towards 440 and then make our way right back down towards these lower levels. That's what I'm eyeing on SPY, a little pop and drop, or maybe a drop from here. And I think that there's going to be some downside coming thanks to the bearish divergences. We could pop a bit more depending on what Jerome Powell says, but just be very careful. On Nvidia stock, we have something very similar developing. Let's actually look at Nvidia. Nvidia right now, It has a double bearish divergence on the 30 minutes time frame, and on the 4-hour time frame, this thing is starting to shift a little bit. We have a slight double bearish divergence as well, but there's no sign that Nvidia is done just yet. So I believe that NVIDIA has some tight resistance historically around this 470 area. If we break that, watch 471 and then 475 to 476 is where the top should be. And NVIDIA is going to likely reject somewhere at these higher levels if we pop a little bit more. But if the bearish divergence is ready to cause this to fall, we could be retracing towards 462 all over again, 460, 458, potentially 455. In my opinion, it's either going to drop from here and start retracing towards, 460 or even below that, or it might pop a little bit more, form a top in the very low 470s, and then reject off that and start dropping. I believe Nvidia is in a topping process just like Apple, and I think that the upside is going to be limited because of what we're seeing on the charts and some signals. When it comes to Apple, I think that there are two possibilities for Apple. It either starts dropping here, it's going to lose 182 and start sinking towards 180, and even below that towards these imbalances down here towards the 178. Or, and we also have like a head and shoulders that suggests that, or we pop a little bit more. We get one more pop thanks to Powell, and we get very close to 185, and then we reject on Apple and make our way back down towards 180, if not 178. Either we pop up higher than we drop from here. I think there's going to be some downside coming. I think the market is due for that. It may take a few days to get that. It may take another week, but I believe that's going to be the case. And I think I'm leaning a lot more in that direction. On the triple Q, the QQQ, I'm seeing something very similar developing. If you look at our triple Q chart, which is right here on the 4-hour time frame, this is starting to flip on the PPO. We have a bearish divergence, a double bearish divergence that developed on the 4-hour time frame. On the 30 minutes time frame, we have a potential. Let me just double check this. This is still a double bearish divergence. So it suggests to me that there's going to likely be some downside soon for the triple Q. I see two possibilities. It either pushes up towards 374 to 375, then rejects and starts downtrending towards 370 and maybe even 369 and below that. Or the top is in and we're forming a head and shoulders up here and we're going to be sinking towards 369. It's got to be one of those two. This could be like a kind of like sloppy looking head and shoulders, possibly. Not 100% sure, but we'll have to wait and see. So I think the market's in the topping process. Now, guys, I'm going to be very brief with the rest of the video, just to quickly talk about a couple of others. We also have this possible head and shoulders on Tesla that could lead to some downside, or you could actually interpret it like right here. This could be like the head is up here, the left shoulder is like here, and the right shoulder is forming. Possibly, not a guarantee though. We'll just have to wait and see. But if anything, I think Tesla's going to likely stay in this range, but it might start downtrending more later on if we start to see SPY break down soon. And we'll see what Jerome Powell causes at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. For a couple of other tickers, for the IWM or the Russell 2000, this is looking bearish, especially on the 4-hour. It looks like it's going to be testing 168 very soon. If it breaks the 50 EMA, watch the support at 169.36. If we lose that, watch 168. For Microsoft, it looks like this thing is in the topping process. Watch for it to test. It has a bearish divergence, so watch this test of 366 to 365, then a rejection towards 358. If we end up getting that rejection, on AMD, we're going to be watching this thing possibly forming a head and shoulders, then reject and start heading down towards 111, or it could pop a little bit more towards 118 and then reject. My guts tells me it's going to reject here and come down to 111 very soon. It's looking a bit more bearish on the 4-hour. It's also establishing a bearish divergence. Technicals are weakening on it. The VIX happens to have a bullish divergence, suggesting it's going to bounce and start pushing towards 15 plus soon. So I think the market's going to see some downside soon. Maybe we pop a bit more for SPY in the market, then we start dropping, and the VIX should be bouncing soon. So we want to be very careful. For Netflix, we're trying to push, but we have a slight bearish divergence. It could push up for 440, then reject, or reject from here and come down to 432. The SQQQ is looking a bit more bullish. We have a bullish divergence. It looks like it's going to try to bounce and make its way up towards 18.68 very soon. It could be forming an inverse head and shoulders as well. So maybe it drops a bit. Maybe the market pops a little bit more. And then we see this thing start pushing up as the market drops. The dollar is kind of flat. We'll see if this thing could break out or not. But it's just trading kind of flat, not really doing a whole lot. We'll see if this inverse head and shoulders like structure does end up holding. We're just gonna wait for that. For Coinbase, we have some tight resistance between 89 and 90. We also have a bearish divergence, a triple bearish divergence, which tells me that Coinbase may pop a bit and then drop back down towards the 85 area, if not 82.5. or it just drops towards 85 to 82.5 from here. On Google, the 4 hour is showing, a decline. We have a bearish divergence. If we end up losing 132, anticipate it's going to come down towards 130.5. If we continue to sink from here, however, we might just continue if we don't get the pop. It could also pop towards 135 and then reject, but I think that there's going to be a rejection coming throughout the markets. The 10-year Treasury yield is forming a bullish signal right here, as this thing is forming this like bottom around the 44.8 area. If it bounces to fill the gap, this could be a bearish signal for the markets. For Amazon, we're likely in a topping process. 143 to 145 is where the historical top could be because of this tight resistance and this historical rejection around 146. So I think Amazon's either going to start dropping here off the bearish divergence, come back down to 140, maybe even below that, or it pops one last time for 145 to 146 thanks to Powell, and then we start dropping back down. Either it pops and drops, or it just drops from here. Same thing with Meta. If this bearish divergence plays out, watch it come down towards 312, or it bounces for 325 and then rejects and comes back down to 312. It's got to be one of those two, but I'm anticipating some downside is finally coming soon. It might pop a little bit more towards 325 and then reject, so watch this inverse head and shoulders carefully and watch and see if we could break out. Please be very careful, guys. Jerome Powell is speaking again, and we will see how he ends up affecting the markets. Now, the last thing I just wanted to say about what I said earlier about my positions in the market. I've been going long on SPY and most of the stocks out there when it comes to my options trading for the majority of the time, at least for a lot of different tickers. And now I'm actually closing those positions that I'm starting to short. I only have some short positions on SPY. I started shorting at 418. If I'm right, then it's going to be awesome that the top could be in. But if I'm wrong and it goes a little bit higher, I'm just going to plan on dollar cost averaging, and I'm also going to I could even close the position, just reopen. I mean, I'm okay with that. I think that we're in a much more comfortable place to be shorting, and I think that the upside is going to be very limited. I'm not saying we have to crash immediately. I'm just saying a very healthy pullback should be coming soon. And I think that whether I have to dollar cost average or not is very ambiguous. We'll just have to wait and see. But I believe that the market's in the topping process and the upside is limited. And whether SPY has already topped or if we pump a little bit more and then top, I think that good opportunities are coming. All right, so that's not financial advice. I'm just going to be very transparent and honest with everyone with how I'm looking at things. I'm always open to the possibility of the market going a bit higher, which is why my positions are very tiny for now. But I'm going to be watching very patiently and waiting. I'm also not shorting with 0-day to expiration options. I'm giving them time. I'm going to be holding them out for a couple of weeks because I'm willing to just hold them, and I'm very patient in a market like this because I know lots of moves may take time to play out. All right, guys, so that's it for this one. Hopefully this video was helpful. Nothing I said was financial advice. We'll see how it goes for tomorrow. Get ready for Powell at 2 p.m., and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.